potential and the growth achievement, it's been the strongest last year.
It was the strongest. So I want to now touch base upon all of that, and let's first begin at the global level before we get into the bird's eye view. There's a new Nokia. You're the global chief. Tell us, what is new at Nokia today? How has the company evolved? There have, of course, been a lot of trying times that Nokia's had to go through globally. You can blame it on BlackBerry, you can blame it on the iPhone, a whole host of issues, but there is a new Nokia today. Tell us about it.
Well, I think a lot has changed because we're a company that's used to serial transformations. We're more than 150 years old, and sort of through these serial transformations, the company has a soul, right? And yes, we were in devices, and that didn't go well. We sold the devices business to Microsoft, but we moved from being a leader in devices to being a leader in the networks business by doubling down on the networks opportunity and acquiring our competitor Alcatel-Lucent 3 years ago. And so if you look at the new Nokia, we're a company that's serially acquired networks companies and have become this large entity. So we have Nokia, Siemens networks business, Alcatel-Lucent, a little bit of Nortel, Motorola, Panasonic. So if you think about the sector, these were all independent players about 10 years ago, and we've acquired them all, which is quite an effort. So with doing that, we've become a leader. We've probably become the fastest growing if you think about all of these inorganic.
Yeah, at number one, because the dominance, is it being threatened, and if I'm wrong over here, by Chinese companies now?
We're used to competing with all kinds of companies. We have 5 players in this market, and we're used to competing with Chinese companies now for well over a decade. So that's not a problem. We are number one here in India through achieving. I mean, how we compete is effectively be a step ahead. Ensure that you're innovating better than the others. You're performing better on stage when you do the dance. And for me, it's all about execution and translating a strategy into actions.
So now, if I could pick up on one of the points that you talked about, which is 5G. We've got the global chief of Nokia here. What is
all about helping consumers, download faster videos and basically smartphones and tablets. That was the use case, right? 5G is a technology designed for connecting things and not just people, right? And then, of course...
Oh, that's nice. That used to be a slogan, remember?
Yeah, exactly. And so we say that, Nokia is a company that creates a technology to connect the world. So it's connecting the world now. So we have 7 billion devices. In the future, we see by 2025, 100 billion devices. So one, it's going to be about connecting things. It will give a lot higher speed, a lot more capacity. When we download those emails and we download the video and we see that there's a delay, those things will go away with 5G. For consumers, it'll open up a better network. It'll also give us new kinds of services, like we can use virtual reality for gaming, we can use virtual reality for watching the cricket match sitting at home but feeling like I'm in the stadium along with you and my other friends and so on. Also augmented reality services and so on. So there are some new services for consumers. Most importantly though, you can connect a lot of things, but most importantly you can connect a lot of valuable physical assets in factories. So I think 5G will be huge for productivity gains for countries. It'll become critical national infrastructure, and it will drive industrial automation and at a scale that we've never seen before. So it isn't just about consumers, it's also about industries. If you think about manufacturing, connecting valuable physical assets, untethering these things, having no cables in the factories, no wires, and think about logistics, think about ports, think about energy, automotive, mining, you name it. So whether it's transportation, energy, public sector, logistics, manufacturing, it will fundamentally transform the way these industries are organized today and help them on the path to digitalization. So it is the very underlying fabric to make that happen. So in a nutshell, 5G connects things, also connects people. It will give consumers new services that will give us productivity and time saving, but the productivity gains in industries will be just tremendous.
But give me an idea, Rajeshwari, that by when will we see the roll out of 5G, not just in India, but anywhere in the world? How far are we from it, and which country do you think is way ahead at the moment?
US is the first. We have shipped more than 15,000 5G base stations to the US in the second half of last year. There will be launches taking place in US, in Korea, around April, May, and June, happening now. devices will be available, consumer 5G devices will be available. And so those are the couple of first countries, Korea and US. And then you'll have China later this year. You'll have Japan later this year. You'll have some Nordic countries do 5G later this year. You'll have a few Middle Eastern countries that are looking at 5G later this year. Then you have maybe Italy and the UK. We have 31 commercial 5G deals. Not trials, not pilots. We have 100 plus of those, but real commercial 5G deals. We're number one in terms of the number of deals we have. So it's becoming real. This isn't just about, I'm not sure, where are the standards? The standards are baked in, it's real. But then there's going to be a second wave of countries. India will be in that second wave. I expect in India, depends of course when the spectrum auctions take place and whatnot, but I would say maybe 2020 is the timeline, for India. Maybe the back end of 2020 is
then would that also mean, you said you signed commercial deals, not trials, they're commercial deals, for example, in the United States. Any such deal which has been signed at India yet, or we're so far away, we don't even have the spectrum for it?
We don't have the spectrum. It's not the time for it. I mean, 4G is very much still required in India. There's a lot more to do with 4G. But as I said, it will be in the second wave of countries, so no deal here yet. But all these deals are sort of outside of India at this stage.
For the policymakers that are watching you, for those in government that are watching you right now, Rajesh Suri, what are the lessons that we can learn from the first wave of countries of 5G? We don't know when that spectrum auction is going to take place. Barring maybe Reliance Jio, the typical telecom companies are in a bad shape in India. We've seen a huge consolidation wave as well. Is this the right way to go? Spectrum auction, for example. What has the US done? What has Korea done?
Yeah, I think first of all, what's happening in India and consolidation is a good thing because the market is sort of preparing itself. I'm a big believer in market forces determining consolidation, just as it's happened in our
You've
sector.
done inorganic growth as well, yeah.
Big time, and so it's what comes out of the other end is a good thing. Because our industry could not afford 10 players, and India could not afford 10 plus players. But in terms of 5G and sort of what I think would be required from a regulatory standpoint, first of all, I think the document that's coming out from the government is forward-leaning. In terms of the telecom policy, but we have to think about 5G as critical infrastructure which will transform industries, as I said, which will provide huge productivity gains for the economy. I think 1950s style US productivity growth of 30 to 35% will also come to countries like India and China, and much of it will be on robotics, artificial intelligence, 5G. And so the message I have is that when you look at spectrum, please look at it practically. Please look at it for giving it for as long a duration as possible, and as inexpensively as possible. Because think about the long term. Don't just think for the short term. Give the power of investments to our telco operators and customers and enterprises that will need to benefit from 5G. Finland is a great example. Finland looks at it as a critical infrastructure, so spectrum is been fairly cheap, and the whole thing has been about make sure you have accelerated 5G rollout. So incentivize for investment, incentivize for accelerated rollout, but don't incentivize for less investment by charging a whole lot for spectrum.
Yeah.
So that it's the lifeblood of our industry. It gives it free because the whole idea is it's a national industrial policy to drive 5G. US gives very long-term perpetual. You get spectrum and it stays with you. So I think look at some of the good models that work and adopt from that. Think of it as not being too far behind. I think India should be, when I say second wave, in the early second